Hey, happy birthday to Bitcoin. 13 years since it was originally developed by an unknown person known as Satoshi. Why was it developed? What's going to happen in the future? Well, we go back to 2008 when they decided, or he or she, Satoshi decided to develop computers and programs, code that could in effect have digital currencies called Bitcoin. And of course, 13 years later, we see so much development gone into it and a whole industry of cryptocurrencies being developed. 2007, there was a banking crisis. Banks had irresponsibly lent money. And not only had they irresponsibly lent money, but they geared up and they'd sold those loans on, doubled and trebled. In other words, they were gearing their loans and selling their bad loans on to other banks. It caused, of course, the financial collapse. Lehman Brothers, amongst others, the great banks to collapse because of the irresponsibility that had happened. Governments needed to sort economies out, needed to back banks, and what they did was they printed money. So imagine you had government currency like sterling or the euro or the US dollar or any other currency that's used around the world. What governments do is they add digitally more sterling, more dollars, more euros into the economy to prop the economy up. In this case, it was to mop up all those bad debts that bankers had caused. So when we look at it, we go, that's government's reactions. In fact, someone once said that if aliens land on Earth, what will governments do? Well, we know they'll print more money. In other words, they always react that way. Satoshi, he or she, decided that they didn't want the world to rely on government money. Created digital currencies with Bitcoin as something that had a maximum number of Bitcoins, 21 million. No one could change it. It was code. And not only was it code, it was using blockchain, so decentralized, so no one person could control it. Of course, many people and myself have become a fan over the years of saying, why do we want governments to keep score? Why don't we use digital currencies, particularly when there's a limited number and we know nobody can interfere by adding extra currency irresponsibly? Right now, we see Turkey having inflation of 36%. We see Lebanon, where there's been a crash of the economy and their currency is down 90%. We've seen so many countries suffer. And really why they're suffering, or often suffering, is because the major powers, like the US, have added so much money into the system, which has created this inflationary world. They've not supported perhaps the global economy, but rather supported their own. Nothing wrong with that, you say, if that's the government of that country. But of course, if it's the world reserve currency, which the US dollar is, what does that mean? In other words, people go to the dollar for security, for safety. They rely on the dollar. And of course, they're relying on the US government in effect to say, this is how much currency we're allowed. Of course, people now are saying that Satoshi was exactly right. You shouldn't rely on government money. Why not take control of your own money and allow an independent source, a computer, to keep score? And then all of a sudden, you're not dependent on government setting interest rates and digitally adding money. So we're 13 years later. What does the future hold? Well, I would suggest that Bitcoin has become gold-like. It's not as easy for transactions as perhaps some other cryptocurrencies, which we'll talk about in other videos. So hit subscribe, please like, please share the video. There's lots going on in the digital space. Bitcoin, it's perhaps the first mover. It's similar to gold. It's scarce. It's something that we can go, there's only a certain amount. It's digital. It's easy. It's more portable than gold. It actually has advantages. But don't forget, there's going to be other digital currencies that perhaps will ease payments, make them faster, make them easier, and of course, go to do exactly what Satoshi was trying to do in the first place. And that is say, these banks screwed up. Okay, let's take control of our own lives. 13 years later, what's your opinion? Was it a great idea? And is there more to come? I think there is. You obviously need to make your own mind up. But either way, subscribe to this channel because I'll put out the information so that you can make your own mind up and make sure you're in the right place, right time to make money for your future.